the issue of national integration and the peaceful coexistence of the pluralistic and multicultural Nigerians in Nigeria has been a subject of national discourse since it secured independence in 1960. Despite global states' adoption of the constitutional principle of unity within diversity among nations, national integration remains a major challenge to most nations, including Nigeria. The state of national integration in Nigeria has been under the persistent negative influence of the issues of insecurity, poverty, deprivation, illiteracy, ignorance, corruption, poor leadership, and governance. Just to mention a few, as the Kukah Center presents a one-day conference focused on promoting national integration and unity, we are now joined by Bishop Mathew Hassan Kukah of the Catholic Diocese of Sokoto, Nigeria, and the founder of the Kukah Center. Good morning, Bishop Kukah. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Dr. Abati. Good morning.
Well, Bishop,
Bishop.
I understand you have a workshop on the issue of national integration and unity in diversity. Well, we've been talking about this forever. Can we really talk about integration, unity in diversity, when we have not yet resolved that question about nationhood? It was Professor Soyinka that asked that question many years back. He said, when is a nation? Is it when you have a flag, you have a national anthem? Are we really yet a nation?
Well, thank you very much. But if you may just indulge me, I got the last end of your intervention just before. Thank God, when I was mic'd, and I had you talking about the situation in the UK and children now being taught how to drink and smoke and so on. I'm reminded of a statement made by the former British Prime Minister, John Major, who in addressing people in Westminster raised the question. He said, look, we've had a constitution for about 680 or so years. Can people who believe that we have done so well with this constitution, can they please raise up their hand in this room? And of course, not a single hand went up. I think that the Nigerian situation, I think we're very much in a hurry. We are quite impatient with ourselves. I do not think that we sufficiently appreciate the complexities, the nature of the building blocks of a stable society. We also are not fair to the history of Nigeria when we consider the years after independence that were consumed by the military and the extent to which those years sent us all the way back to the beginning of where we started this journey. In fact, we were even worse off than during the colonial administration, in the sense that for almost 30 years, the Constitution was in suspended animation. The judiciary became made up of, was suspended more or less. We had only tribunals in the quest for justice. The National Assembly ceased to exist. So I think we need to be a little bit patient with ourselves. We are not yet a nation, but again, even those nations that we have had stood the test of history. Nobody would have imagined that what is happening in Ukraine is happening now. Nobody would have imagined that after 1948, Gaza would certainly rear up its head. So the point to make, without making excuses, is that yes, we could have gained a lot of mileage in Nigeria, and yes, we have performed very badly, and yes, we have missed a lot of opportunities, and yes, a lot of horrible things have been done. But notwithstanding all this, I think we are every day in Nigeria, our hopes are renewed about the possibility of tomorrow. So for me, it's just to make the point that, and if you indulge me again, the quality of education about which you mentioned, you spoke about our universities. And I speak because here, this is not a commercial announcement, but this is a book that I published last year. The title of the book is Broken Truths, Nigeria's Elusive Quest for National Cohesion. So the theme of national cohesion has literally been an obsession for me. And I just took 10 out of the over 20 convocation lectures I've delivered in Nigeria to underscore the point that one of the missing links in our national development program has been the university system. And I want to speak here, for example, there are the provisions in the laws governing our Nigerian universities. In 1963, a mosque was constructed in the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. I delivered a convocation lecture in Calabar just about 3 weeks ago. And after my lecture, somebody who came to congratulate me was the chief imam of the university, who is an employee of the university. But as I speak to you, University of Usman Danfodio University, which is over 40 years, Bayero University and other universities in northern Nigeria, have decided to close their doors to the possibility of churches being built in universities across this country. We've made the point, and I want to make the point that we are only building on sand if we don't have a solid moral foundation. Because all this fanaticism we are seeing expressed in public life, if students in the university at a point of their growing up are not allowed to be able to integrate and interrelate, and that churches cannot, mosques cannot be built across this country, then there is a problem. So yes, nation building is a process, but some of the building material, which is largely, you and I, a lot of effort is being made. More can still be done, but there are too many things that we need to try and fix very quickly.
All right, so too many things to try and fix very quickly. Of course, my next question then would be for you to break that down, sir. You're most welcome to the show. What are some of the many things you talk about in your homily on Christmas Day? Again, Oh, so I was just going to talk about your homily where you talk about a nation still in search of healing. That the events that happened during the 2023 elections show that there's a lot that has to be done on our path to healing. I'd like you to also expound on that, please. Go ahead.
Look, I was lucky to have served as a member of the Oputa panel. I was also lucky that for over 7 years I was going in and out of Ogoni land to try and reconcile or bring about some relative peace and understanding between Shell and the people of Ogoni. And I think my 2 books illustrate the fact that we made a bit of measurable progress. Now, I'm saying, for example, if you take the Nigerian universities, and I think we must very quickly return to the scene of the crime. There was a time, and Dr. Abati made the point, there was a time when we knew what universities were. Ahmadu Bello University, for example, had lecturers from different parts of the world. Now look at what has happened to our universities across Nigeria. Look at what has happened. Our universities have become just mere incubators of ethnic Jingoism. So I don't know which university you will name now, federally funded universities that you will name, that have a vice chancellor that is not a local boy. So the universities themselves have become playgrounds for the ambitions of the local elite. The result then is that these are federally funded institutions, and the point I'm making is, why, for example, should a place of worship be a problem for a university? Whether it is for the Muslim students in Calabar, or the Christian students in Sokoto, or the Christian students in Kano, or the Christian students elsewhere. And I approached the Minister of Education on this. I have a letter from the NUC. The universities in northern Nigeria have refused to implement this recommendation. So if you're talking about, so the first things to do is, let's restore nobility around the university, because that's where the leaders of tomorrow are going to come from. Let's also diversify this in the way that Obasanjo did, that somebody like Professor Akingube was Vice Chancellor of Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. Somebody like Adamo Beki was Vice Chancellor of the University of Benin. Because our inability to manage diversity has also led us to a situation, we're literally on a dead end. Because you go to the bureaucracy and you find that in a single office, people who are running the show are people from the same, either the same community, the same religion, or the same tribe. And so if we don't deliberately decide to figure out how to manage diversity scientifically, then we will continue to hemorrhage. And I think that this was the most horrible thing that Buhari did. And there needs to be a very quick return to a situation in which, our diversity is a cause for celebration. The third point arising from that is the fact that there are certain processes of recruitment to public life in Nigeria need to be much more transparent. And the idea that certificates are no longer relevant. That to get a job now depends on who is standing behind you, whether it's a pastor, whether he's a traditional ruler, whether he's a bishop, or whether he's an emir. I think that yes, these things are important, but there must be a much more transparent process by which people are sent to positions based on verifiable ability and capacity and competence. It is only then that, because as long as people are getting into services, for example, the military, the police, the immigration, every day I'm getting reports from young people who tell me, look, you cannot be recruited. We can write the exam. We can do all this, but nobody will take you if you don't know another person. It is possible for this country to begin to mark those kind of areas and to flag off areas where this country must align with international obligations.
But when you look at the intentions of the way universities were able to set up in Nigeria, in fact, there's a case now going on that some people, Nnamdi Azikiwe University of Nigeria, are saying that nobody from that locality have been VC and they're pushing and all of that. If you see the way universities have been set up in Nigeria, it was to fulfill those ethnic sentiments in the first place. That was the origin, in the name of competition. So the ideas of our university system were wrong, except for the ones, like the Furabe colleges of this world that the colonialists set up to be able to also create people that would be in the colonial workforce and the level of white-collar jobs and things like that. So the essence of the university system in the first place was nepotistic from the start. I mean, look at what's happening in American universities with Gaza and all of that. For the first time, you are having people, protest in favor of Gaza. Americans can understand that, okay, the Jewish are now a minority in the protest, and there's a fight back and forth. So how can we recreate the university system through those that even formed the university system in the first place? I think that's been the first question, because one, university is an agent of socialization. Secondly, are we really ready to come together beyond all of these nativist tendencies and agenda? I mean, sir, with due respect, you've done a lot for this country. The niggling problems that you faced in the Truth and Reconciliation by the Oputa panel are still the niggling problems that we face today. And that's why people like Ken Saro-Wiwa, that was successful doing his Basi and company, had to say enough is enough. Let me go and face the charge of marginalization. Adaka Boro did that way before now. So how can we say the people are truly ready when all of us are nativists in nature?
Well, look, Rufai, you make the point eloquently. But look, let me tell you, nothing dropped from heaven. What I said about Ahmadu Bello University, you can say about Ibadan, you can say about Ife, you can say about Nsukka, and so on. So the question now we should ask ourselves, how can Nsukka now come back to this whole point? And you see, the problem in Nigeria is that the political elite continue to misbehave so badly that you cannot even talk about fighting corruption, because everybody tells you that, look, this is the little thing that belongs to me. How can you, if you see what the big man is taking? Now, once you decide to remove paper and you allow other, like you said, nativistic tendencies to become the guiding principle, then you have a problem. I can tell you that in my own little modest way, I've been chairman of the governing council of a university. I'm presently the chairman of the governing council of the Catholic University in Abuja. I spent 6 years working with the American University in Yola. So I have a little bit of understanding. I've spoken in over 20 universities in this country. I know the rot. I know the pain. I know that to the extent, the universities, people say to me, why are you not tired of talking? And I say, no, I'm not tired, because from day one, I've made up my mind. If we lose the intellectual argument, we don't have a country. Chinua Achebe tried to explain this to the Igbos, that if you allow these cowboys with just money means road to take over who we are, we will not be able to survive it. This is where Nigeria has found itself. A lot of this was, the convolution came with the military. When the military began to sack people and, at will, and it turned out to be vice chancellor now is no longer a process. To be vice chancellor now is something that I don't want to go into other details, but the NUC executive secretary then
politically grounded to be vice chancellor.
Politically grounded, traditionally grounded,
yes.
Because I went to deliver a convocation lecture in a university, and I was told that the chancellor of the university had come to the university accompanied by 120 people. And the vice chancellor was complaining to me, where am I going to find accommodation to put all? Where will I find? We don't have a hotel in this town that can take 120 people. So, you know, there's so much rot that has been created in the system that the university community no longer has to enjoys the kind of integrity it needs to enjoy. And for me, going forward, it is that anything and everything must pass the test of paper. You know, we substituted intellect. This is the only country where somebody thinks that you should feel sorry for the fact that you got a first class. Somebody thinks that you should somehow, if you are brilliant, if you are intelligent and you pass an exam, somehow you should feel inadequate. Now, if you go to Harvard today, you know that you can stand tall because the person who is standing next to you passed the examination that you passed. Right now in Nigeria, if you ask a young man, how do you get into a university? I don't know, it depends. If you ask, how do you get promoted after I don't know, it depends. So I'm still saying, I'm making the point, and the current minister of education, well, a man with great experience and exposure, must link up with the ideals that this government has enunciated, whether they are achievable or not, but there must be a renewed commitment and a renewed faith to the fact that the university must become the breeding ground for the elite of building a new nation. Anything out of that, I don't think, we can spend all the time we want to spend, but we'll not be building a country.
Well, the central argument of Newman in his book, The Idea of the University. But Bishop Kukah, I'd like you to tell us more about, the workshop on national integration that the Kukah Center is having. Who are the speakers? Yes. What is the focus and all of that?
Well, this is, as I said, the reason why I set up the Kukah Center actually was born out of my own frustration, but also the belief that the problems of Nigeria can be solved, and that one will do the little bit best that he can. Others will come and continue from there. So for me, national cohesion has literally been, an obsession, and I'm committed to the argument that we must be able to provide profound solutions to the problems of Nigeria. And that those who govern, we are now sliding to a point in which people think that every politician is a criminal. Everybody in public service is a criminal. No, there are people who are in public life in Nigeria that I know. They are in the National Assembly. They are in government houses. They are everywhere. They are breaking their back to do their best. So the idea behind what we're trying to do, and the reason for the Kukah Center, is that I want to be able to have a platform that I can summon a lot of the people that I know who have the capacity and intellect, and that subsequently, this is what I learned from the Kennedy School, that subsequently we can begin to provide briefing options for people who are involved in the business of public policy. So the Honorable Speaker of the Federal House of Representatives will be our guest speaker. He'll be speaking on the whole question, what is the national question? And then we have, of course, Sam Amadi, Gloria Balasin, a few other people who will be speaking during another session that just will take on some of these issues. But the idea is for us to throw up these issues. There is no solution. As long as there is life, there can never be a finishing point to dreams and visions. So we just have to continue to renew our dreams, renew our visions, renew our commitment, mend the broken pieces, and this is the way, that a country grows. The great things we think we are doing today, others will come and dismantle them tomorrow and do something that is different. The essence of a state is to make sure that the table is sufficiently stable so that people who want to dance can dance without the table breaking.
All right, thanks. So you yourself have talked about the fact that we've had a number of conferences, dialogues, workshops, and the likes to promote national integration. What will be different about this one, and in terms of the outcome, pushing the outcome and implementing it? What would be different about this particular conference? And then it seems as if, I might be wrong, but your assessment of this administration, I believe you're giving them the benefit of the doubt. Again, referring to the last homily you had, the public lecture on Christmas Day, where you talked about setting an agenda for the president. And it seemed as if, from the tone, I might be wrong again, that you believe he's on the right path and you're giving him the benefit of the doubt to work out. And so I'd like to hear your assessment thus far, because 1 year would be in a few weeks.
Yes, look, 1 year is too early, and I must, what's the word to use now? I must make a quick admission that I'm not, I believe in this country. And whoever God places in a position to govern this country, I will try and support them as best as I can. As long as, not that they are doing what I want them to do, but as long as I can see that they are heading in the right direction. My 8 years of engaging Buhari had nothing to do, nothing personal. Now, I can give the vice president, how will I put it, the benefit of the doubt, because I've known him for a good bit of time. I've worked with him. I think I trust his commitment and his capacity. Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, our president, I've known for quite a period, for quite a period of time. What's and all, I see and I hear that we are somehow in a very difficult situation, but I see a bit of commitment to continue with this journey. And all we can do is to continue to encourage those in government. So for me, if you ask me, 1 year is too early, but I think that if we put together all the pains and all the sufferings and all the agonies that have been inflicted on this country, I think that they've not been done out of a sense of malevolence. I think it's more a question of, and this is why I've said that the government needs to have come up a little bit more clearly, more constructively, and a more robust way to engage Nigerians to say, look, we are on a journey to Golgotha, but this is how long it is going to take us. Beyond this, there will be redemption. Those have been my problems. So if you talk about trust, yes, we trust those whom God has endowed with the responsibility of governing us. I also see and I hear and I see a lot of the things that are going on. And I think that, frankly, it is my hope that maybe down the line, in another 6 months, I imagine that things should be slightly, significantly different. So if you ask me, do I believe that this government can achieve what it wants to achieve? I believe my answer is yes. But we also have a duty and a responsibility to be eternally vigilant, to keep the government on its feet. And I think you can also see that some of the things that people have, the agitation that people have made, that government has shown a bit of response in a way, a manner that we were not familiar with. So for me, anybody or any government that is prepared to take us a little bit away from where President Buhari left us, I'll be more than happy to support that process. But I don't issue any government a blank check.
Just the first one as to what will be different about this conference, promoting national integration, because as you
what will be different? Thank you. Yes, thank you. No, I agree with you, but let me tell you what we're trying to do at the Kukah Center. It's that we are never going to have one-off events. We have established a pretty broad-based program of interaction. We've got a lot of people that are on our mailing list, institutions, individuals, and so on. So what we really have been trying to do, even on this issue of security, Father Atabarkindo, who is the director of the center, has got a PhD in Boko Haram. He studied in the School of Oriental and African Studies. His PhD thesis was on Boko Haram. So we have tried our best to engage the government and to provide alternatives, in terms of how we see things. So my hope is that everything that we put on the table, every meeting that we have, I believe it's important for us to feed the media, feed other organs of civil society, the churches, the faith communities, and so on and so forth, in order to carry through the conversation. So I think that is the advantage that we have over and above other events that simply just happen in a day and everybody packs his bags and goes.
I asked a lot of questions in your Easter message. You said, where are we? Where are we going? Where do we want to be as a nation? And you also talked about the mindset of, we keep saying, rejigging security architecture and all of that. Trillions go down the drain, but we don't really get anything out of it. These are the factors on ground. And when you look at it, you talked consistently about the things that, President Buhari did not do right. But all of those persecutions are still there today. And it's just 1 year down the line, and nothing has improved. The state of the economy will be taken through an economic merry-go-round. And we are still where we are. Things have even gotten worse off. PZ have less this morning. And you're saying we need a time for healing. When is it going to be the time?
I think, Rufai, no wound heals in a day. And I think that what you are doing, let me tell you, unknown to you, you have established yourself, and not only three of you, all of you who are on the talking shows and so on, you underestimate the amount of influence you have on people. You don't know the number of people you inspire. But there is a limit to how much a negative journey can take you to. The map reading business is not something that a president does. And for me, my main concern and interest is that, look, contrary to the whole expectation, Nigerians think that one day they're going to find some Messiah who is going to come and I say, no, we can't have a Messiah in Nigeria, because if you have a Messiah, the Christians recognize him, the Muslims will not recognize him. The Muslims are also, in some segments of Islam are expecting a Messiah. When he appears, the Christians will not. We're not looking for a Messiah, and there are no Messiahs anywhere. For me, the media in Nigeria is doing an extraordinarily good job. So the question is, how do we continue to hold the feet of those who are in power, to the fire? Without, we don't need a situation in which I'm not an opposition politician, but I'm also opposed to things that I see government is not doing right. So if you talk about healing, quite a lot is taking place. And I'm not talking about in relation to government. I think that despite all the challenges and the difficulties, we have a lot of bright spots here and there. There is evidence that we're in the right direction. Where we are not, the government is not doing well, or any government for that matter, it is important that we learn how to, as somebody said, make noise. But I don't think we can just assume that nothing is happening, nothing is changing. No, a lot of things are changing. Look, I give you a simple example. Yesterday, I was on a plane from Sokoto. And because people say to me, you are just wasting your time. And I was on a plane to Sokoto. My ticket was an economy ticket. But inside business class of the flight, I entered the plane. 4 different people stood up, including, I hope I'm not going to embarrass him, General Magoro, who said, no, Bishop, come and sit. And I said, no, sir. 4 different people stood up for me to take their seats. It was a difficult journey for me to enter just to sit on, in economy. So the point I'm making is the little contributions we are making, a lot of people appreciate it. I'm sure if you show up somewhere, Dr. Abati, Oji, you'll be surprised at how people react. They react to you at the airport in appreciation. So we must continue. And of course, unlike you, I'm a priest. So one of the things I market and I market best is hope. And I think that's where that's where we differ. So no matter how difficult things may be, I have to find a reason to let people know that tomorrow will be better.
Well, Bishop, as we begin to wrap up, just one question. The government started yesterday a justice sector reform workshop, which the president declared open, represented by the vice president. Now, one of the books you have written, one of the titles, is Witness to Justice. You've written extensively on the challenge of justice sector reform in Nigeria. What do you think that other conference, should be looking at in terms of the place of the justice sector in the development of the democratic process?
Look, my late Papa, Justice Oputa, used to say to me that he told me a joke about a man who was walking in London on Fleet Street, and he said, look, he saw a cleaner, and he says, please, how do I find my way to the high courts of justice? And the man looked at him, he stopped cleaning. I said, okay, so you just go straight down, make a right, straight down, make a left. You will see the high courts of justice. But whether they dispense justice there, I really don't know. The point is that, look, we think that justice is something that the judiciary will just give us, or is something that lawyers will give us at their discretion. It's a battle. And I think that when you look at different parts of Nigeria, especially places like Yoruba land, for example, where people have achieved a certain level of consciousness that there is a limit to what they will accept. So somebody used to joke that if you steal a vote in Yoruba land, they will kill you. If you steal a vote in northern Nigeria, they will say, well, that's the way God wants it. But if you burn a mosque in Yoruba land, people may say, well, nothing to worry about. If you burn a mosque in the north, they will kill you. So it depends on the reflexes and the value that we've placed on ourselves. So I think that one of the biggest things that needs to happen in our society is a massive education of the broader segment of the Nigerian society. When we finished Oputa panel, one of the things, and the British High Commission was actually interested in this project, and I hold my friend Ofe, what's his name again? Ofemu.
John Uba Ofe?
No. Ofemu.
Okay.
Odia Ofemu.
Odia Ofemu. I hold Odia Ofemu. Yes, I hold Odia responsible. Because I had actually approached Odia and I said, look, what we wanted to do with the Constitution was to break it down in pidgin English. So that people women, and with something that we give to vendors, to be given out to people for free. A woman will say, if my husband beat me, what can I feed do? Yeah, if I do the waiting. So, because human rights education, if it doesn't happen, then people become comfortable in their chains. This is the problem. This is why when Karl Marx talks about religion being the opium of the people, people don't finish reading the text. But he also raises other complex questions. So If you don't place value on yourself, and I'm happy the Holy Father has just issued, a wonderful document on human rights, on human dignity. So the critical question is to help ordinary people understand that simply by being poor, that doesn't mean that your dignity can be taken away from you. Simply by just being this, that, or the other, it doesn't mean your dignity, can be taken away from you. So I think rather than looking at what the lawyers and the judges are going to be saying, I was hoping they'll ask Chidi Odinkalo to go and speak at the conference. But rather than waiting for what those kind of people are saying and will be saying, and like Rufai said, there are people there who are guilty of the things that they are asking the judiciary to do and not to do. So if it is those clubs will remain clubs of privilege. The real challenge and the measure of whether a society is just, fair, equitable, like the Rotarians will tell you, whether you have to ask the certain question, is it fair to everybody? But if the ordinary people on the streets don't understand their right to hold, we keep talking about holding government accountable, but those are conversations that only take place in Abuja. So rather than looking at those people, I'm concerned with the fact that we need to improve the quality of the understanding of the Constitution by ordinary people. Because the more people attack this system and demand and bang on the door and demand for fairness, it's only then that you can begin to talk about a just society. But all these clubs of privilege, whether they're judiciary, lawyers, and so on and so forth, they'll continue to protect and defend themselves.
Well, thank you very much, Bishop Mathew Hassan Kukah, for joining us on the morning show.